So I had a pretty incredible weekend playing Star Wars Squadrons. This is a game that I've been begging for a very long time. EA shot me a review code. Thank you, EA. I was able to stream some of this, so thank you to everybody that's been joining me on those streams and has watched those streams. You saw the huge smile on my face. This has been marketed as a game that you could play in VR. So it's like a space sim light, like a flight sim in space light with a beautiful Star Wars craft. Including X-Wings and TIE Fighters and TIE Bombers and Y-Wings and U-Wings. Gorgeous spaceships that you can pilot. And the option to play in VR was yours if you wanted to partake in that. But let's get one thing straight here. This is a VR game. This is a game meant to be played in VR that you can also decide to play on a television set. It is two totally different experiences. When you play this in VR and you can look around in full 3D and look behind you and see your R2 unit on the back of your X-Wing and see where all of these different cursors are pointing at immediately and quickly just by sort of tilting your head, that is a fundamentally different experience than having to navigate on your spaceship and kind of look through this viewport on your television screen. And I knew that that was going to be the case, but it was so profoundly evident when I was playing the game. I played it on the PlayStation 4 primarily. I did test it out on the PC, and I'll get to that in a second here, but I played it on the PlayStation 4 Pro, and that's what I was streaming on, and then I transferred over to the one that's hooked up to my TV set and played it on a much bigger screen than I have in my little streaming setup here. And it was nice. It looked great on the OLED display, and you know, it just, the colors popped and the beauty of the world building was all there for me, was all evident. And then I popped on the PSVR headset. And I have to be honest with you, the PlayStation VR is definitely showing its age, and I had a little bit of concern that this was going to look too grainy and not really be the, you know, the high definition, beautiful experience that I was witnessing on my television screen. And that is the case. All right, it's not perfect. It's a little bit, you get a bit of a screen door effect, and it's, slightly grainy visuals while you're flying around in space. But that completely drops away when you begin to experience what it feels like. That freedom in VR, space dogfighting is just incredible. And I tried it a couple of different ways. I tried it with the little earbuds that come with the PlayStation VR plugged in, and the sound was just too small for the size of the game. I tried it with some better headphones on, and again, it was pretty good, but I really wanted to just crank up my receiver and hear the surround sound and the John Williams, borrowed from music. I don't think John Williams did the music for here, but you hear all the Star Wars themes. I wanted the cinematic experience enveloping me, even though I was confined to my PlayStation VR headset. Now, I have a launch PlayStation VR, and I know that they made some tweaks and improvements to the second iteration of PlayStation VR, and of course, we all know that there's a PSVR unit that's going to be exclusively tuned and polished for PlayStation 5. I definitely saw some improvements when I was playing PSVR games. When I made the leap to the PS4 Pro, everything ran a lot smoother, and I have to say that I forgot about my initial reservations and my initial kind of observations of the dithering and the slight graininess of the visuals, and I was completely lost in PlayStation VR. Just the fact that you can look down at your feet when you're in the TIE Fighters, you really feel like you're just flying a window when you're in a TIE Fighter. It's like you're just right up against a window, and you just feel so vulnerable as well, It's a very interesting spacecraft. It feels small, and it's definitely something that you can navigate into tight corners with, and you could do loop-de-loops with, and it's just surreal when you're in VR, and you just feel your gut just go, woo, and you feel the speed of everything. It was superb. It was sublime. So what I did is I played a bunch of missions in the story campaign with PlayStation VR after I'd already done a bunch of playtime on this smaller screen that I have in front of me. And it was amazing, and I was completely addicted. I had to take breaks every once in a while because it's so intense. The story stuff, it's basically mission after mission of completing objectives. You have to do some escort stuff. You have to take down giant ships. You play both sides of the conflict, so you play some as the New Republic ships, and you play some as the Empire. And you get to fly 4 different classes of vehicles. So you get your straight-up sort of assault vehicles. You get your faster assault vehicles like the A-Wing and the TIE Interceptor. You get your bomber class. class. So you've got Y-Wings going up against TIE bombers, and then you've got these support vehicles represented by the U-Wing, which is a very cool craft. I really dug that. And I also love the TIE Reaper, which feels a lot more high-tech than all of the TIE fighters that you had been flying before. So it was nice to kind of mix and match, and you get missions sort of tailored for each of the different craft. And the story campaign, you know, as well as being a pretty cool plot in the Star Wars universe, where you've got this Imperial leader that decides to defect to the enemy and becomes then a New Republic leader in charge of his own ship, and he's got former allies on the other side that feel personally affronted by the choice for this guy to go to the good guys. So there's lots of back and forth and lots of personal kind of fire between these different factions, which is pretty rad. And then what you do, just like you do in the multiplayer games, is you go out with 4 other AI-controlled characters, and basically your squad is up against another squad. But of course, when you're in the story mode, the enemy throws all kinds of challenge at you. So it's not just like a straight-up dogfight where you've got 5 against 5. There's lots of AI-controlled targets. So that means lots of spaceships zipping around that you have to blast out of the sky, and also space stations that are floating around. And then, of course, you've got different sized, larger ships that you have to take down, like giant frigates and capital ships that you have to blast across and take out, you know, the satellite dishes and the turrets and stuff that are coming at you. You've got all kinds of great countermeasure weapons that you can activate if you've got a missile hot on your tail. If somebody is targeting you, you know that that's happening, and you can do some dodge and weave and cool roll moves over space junk or flying through tight little crevices and stuff. Absolutely breathtaking. I love all the extras that you can pick up as you work your way into the game, including different paint jobs for your spacecraft. You've got different outfits that you can collect for your avatar, although you don't see your avatar because this game is really played, almost entirely in first person. The only time you really see the avatar is when you and your 4 other crew members, your squad mates, sitting around the briefing table just before you're going to jump into an online multiplayer game. You can see everybody, you can do some emotes and things like that. But for the most part, you're customizing your ship. You can even add little dangling objects. I put a C-3PO type head. I fixed it to my TIE fighter, and I thought that was pretty cool. And there's different collectibles for each side of the battle, which is pretty great. In terms of environments, you're going to be flying through space clouds. You're going to be flying past destroyed asteroids and little moon bases. You're going to be going through graveyards of spaceships. You're going to see all kinds of color and beauty and devastation everywhere you look in this game. It is completely enveloping. Yes, it could be larger, but I think the price is justified by the amount of content that is in there. It's not a full price game, but I think it's worth every penny. I did have some issues with the game, though. I had a few bugs in the PlayStation 4 mode. I had ships just sort of hanging in space when I was playing one of the solo player games. When I was going through some of the tutorial stuff, I had a pop-up info bubble just stay on screen longer than it should have. So I was doing all of the objectives, but it just stayed there. I had a full-on crash on the PlayStation 4, and I had tons of trouble trying to get this thing booted on Steam, playing on the Oculus Rift S. I did eventually get it to go, but for a big chunk of time, it would start to load up and then just stop, and it would start to load up and just stop. I actually ended up having to wipe the game from my Steam library and re-download it, and then I got it to work by just booting the game up, because it has to also interact with the Oculus software with regards to Oculus Rift S. And then I toggled the VR mode on, and it did work, and it was much sharper and much cleaner, much more optimized in VR than the PlayStation VR experience was, but then it crashed. So I didn't have the most exciting experience on PC that I wanted to have with Star Wars Squadrons, but I know that the patch is about to drop. This is a terrific, phenomenal flying, shooting experience in the Star Wars universe. It's, maybe not everything that I want out of this. It would be great to have some battles on Hoth and VR, flying through canyons and stuff, and sort of juice up the diversity in the environments a little bit. And honestly, I would have loved even more Star Wars cameos in here. There are some cool Star Wars cameos. There's lots of lore for all of us Star Wars fanatics to dig into. And, multiplayer is the bread and butter of this game. You're going to want to be getting into dogfights over and over again. It's a blast to see your stats rise up and to get better at it. And I got to tell you, it's tough. Anybody that watched the multiplayer stream that I did with Baruti, it is hard to kind of get your footing and to try to figure out exactly where all the human enemies are, because when you're playing against humans, they're much more adept at doing the spinning and rotations and being sneakier with the strategies that they have, stopping full on and sort of camping and waiting for people around an asteroid or something like that, and then chasing them and hitting them with the right weaponry or dropping a mine at the right time. Multiplayer is a blast. There's also these pretty epic fleet battles, which kind of replicate a lot of the scenarios that you see in the story mode, where there are giant ships that you have to take out. Listen, this is a terrific, absolutely wonderful Star Wars gift. It's long overdue, especially in the VR space. I hope that it is a massive, massive success, and I hope that this is the beginning for this type of game again, because we're about to enter even more richer fidelity, with the horsepower of these new machines, and the mind boggles with where Star Wars Squadrons can take us from here. I do want some DLC for this game, a little bit more content, a little bit more diversity in the missions, and even some more ships to kind of play around with. It does feel like first steps in a direction that I definitely want to stay on. I love Star Wars Squadrons. Congratulations to everybody at EA and Lucasfilm, and especially EA Motive. You made something wonderful here. I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10.